A man who ignores you thinks he's winning until the silence becomes louder than his ego. Let that sink in, my friends. Because the moment someone pulls away from you, goes cold, goes silent, and expects you to chase, that moment isn't about their strength, it's a spotlight on yours. You see, silence isn't weakness, not when it's used with intention. In Stoicism, the one who doesn't flinch, who doesn't chase, who doesn't beg, is the one in power. Because what you don't react to, you rise above. Now let's break the illusion wide open. This isn't about love. This is about power. This is about a man who got too comfortable, a man who thought you'd always be there, waiting like a loyal dog at the door, hungry for scraps of his attention. And that's where he went wrong. Because, folks, you're not a doormat. You're not a trash bin for his emotional garbage. You're not an unpaid therapist for his inconsistent love. You're a woman with fire in her heart, value in her soul, and thunder in her silence. He thought ignoring you made him mysterious, strong, untouchable. No, my friend, it made him predictable, weak, emotionally bankrupt. Because anyone can disappear, anyone can pull away, but not everyone has the courage to face what real connection requires: consistency, presence, vulnerability. So he runs. He hides behind his pride. He ghosts. He vanishes. He plays the avoidant game. But what he didn't expect was your silence, your calm, your shift. You stopped reacting. You stopped proving. You stopped performing emotional CPR on someone who flatlined months ago. And in that stillness, in that holy silence, you became everything he never thought you'd have the guts to be: free, detached, powerful. You see, in Stoicism, the power is not in what you say, but in what you refuse to say. And you right now are holding more power in your silence than he ever held in his games. Let me ask you this. How many times did you excuse his behavior? How many nights did you twist your own heart into knots trying to make sense of the nonsense, trying to find meaning in mixed signals and disrespect? Stop lying to yourself. Stop saying he needs time, that he's just confused, that he's afraid of love. No, he's not afraid of love. He's afraid of losing control over the woman who once made him feel like a god. And that's the part that stings. Because, folks, the moment you pull your energy back, the moment you stop explaining, stop justifying, stop posting sad quotes hoping he'll see them, you shatter the illusion he was thriving on. And do you know what happens when an illusion breaks? Reality comes crashing down. And reality is this: you were the prize all along. His greatest mistake was not pulling away. It was assuming you'd still be there when he came crawling back. So let's be real. He didn't outgrow you. He underestimated you. And that's not your burden to carry anymore. You're not some background character in his ego movie. You are the storm, the plot twist, the moment he starts to question everything. And from this moment on, I want you to carry this truth like armor. I am not an option. I am the consequence. Write that in the comments right now. Let the universe hear it. Let your energy shift. Say it loud. Say it proud. I am not an option. I am the consequence. If this hit you deep, if it woke something up inside of you, then hit that like button and subscribe, because we're only getting started. And I promise you, by the time we're done here, he won't know what hit him. Stay with me. Section 1. He mistakes distance for power until you match it. The one who pulls away believes he holds the power until you stop following and he realizes he's walking alone. Let's get one thing clear, my friends. Distance is not dominance. Silence is not strength. Ignoring someone you once claimed to care about isn't power. It's cowardice dressed up as confidence. And yet that's exactly what some men do. They pull back thinking they're controlling the dynamic. They believe that withholding attention somehow puts them on a throne. But what happens when the woman they're trying to dominate doesn't chase? What happens when the doormat they wiped their emotional filth on suddenly disappears? No messages, no overthinking, no begging, just silence, just space, just air. That's when their ego starts to choke. You see, when a man pulls away, he's not testing the relationship, he's testing you. He's watching, waiting, measuring your desperation. Will she message me first? Will she panic? Will she lower her standards just to keep me close? And the sad truth is, many of you have. Let's be real. You've chased the text that never came. You've watched his stories while pretending you don't care. You've posted things just for his attention. You've cried over someone who treats your love like garbage. You handed your power to someone who didn't even know what to do with it. But here's where the shift happens. The moment you stop chasing closure, you become it. The moment you stop searching for answers, you become the question. And that is where true Stoic power lives. In the moment you decide that if someone wants to walk away from you, you'll open the door wider. Not because you don't care, but because you've remembered who the hell you are. Let me break it to you like this. You're not an emotional vending machine, spitting out affection every time he presses your buttons. You're not here to reward cold behavior with warm validation. You're not an unpaid actress in his little fantasy where he gets to be the star and you're just grateful to be cast. No, my friend, that version of you is dead, and may she never rise again. Now maybe you're sitting there thinking, but what if he doesn't come back? What if I lose him forever? What if this silence just pushes him further away? Good. Let it. Because if silence can destroy the connection, then silence just exposed what wasn't real to begin with. And I know that truth stings, but would you rather live in a lie? Imagine a chessboard. He makes his move. He pulls away. He thinks it's checkmate. But here's the plot twist. You stop playing the game, you walk off the board, and suddenly the man who thought he was 2 steps ahead is just a king with no kingdom, standing alone in his false sense of superiority. That's when it hits him. Control only works when the other person plays along. But it won't be easy. I'm not here to sell you sunshine and daydreams. It will hurt like hell. Your mind will scream for answers. Your heart will ache for closure. You'll stare at your phone like it owes you something. You'll wonder, was I not enough? And I'm here to grab you by the shoulders, look you in the eye, and say, you were always enough. You just forgot. And that forgetfulness, that's what we're killing today, right here, right now. No more putting a crown on someone who gave you crumbs. No more being the woman who lowers her light just so some man doesn't feel insecure. You were never meant to beg for love. You were meant to stand in it, radiate it, and give it to someone who mirrors it back without making you suffer for it. But let's be honest, you've been afraid. You've thought, if I don't reach out, he'll move on. You've thought, maybe I was too much. Let me tell you something that'll rip the chains off your back. A man who's intimidated by your worth was never capable of protecting it. You don't shrink for fragile men. You rise for the powerful one who can meet you in your strength. Because when you stop reacting, you start commanding. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you match his silence with your own, not as a tactic, but as a standard, you flip the script. Now he's confused. He's checking your page. He's wondering why you're not crumbling. He thought you'd be trash on the floor crawling for validation, and instead you're out here moving like peace wrapped in elegance, like a storm he never saw coming. So I want you to write this down, right now, in the comments. Say it loud, say it proud. I match energy with silence. I don't chase, I attract. Let the world see it. Let him see it. Most of all, let you see it. Because this is the turning point. This is where the old you, the begging, overgiving, crying at 2 a.m. you, dies. And the new you, the grounded, detached, unfazed queen, rises. She knows her value. She knows her presence is the reward. And she doesn't prove herself to anyone who dares to pull away and hope she'll crawl after them. Section 2. The withdrawal of attention is the ultimate disruption. The loudest scream a woman can give is silence. He didn't expect it. Let's be real, my friends. He expected the same pattern you followed 100 times before. The overthinking, the crying, the reach-out text just to check in, the sad story you'd post just loud enough for him to hear it. That was the script. That was the cycle. He plays cold and you play desperate. He retreats and you fall apart. That's how it worked before, but not this time. This time, you went quiet. And not the kind of quiet that hopes he notices. Not the pretend I'm fine silence that still checks if he saw your story. No, this time you truly disappeared. From his feed, from his mind, from his ego supply. You took your energy back like ripping gold out of a thief's pocket. And the best part, you didn't announce it. You just did it. Quiet, clean, unapologetic. That, my friends, is Stoic revenge. Because he thought your attention was guaranteed. He thought he could toss you breadcrumbs and you'd still stay hungry. He mistook your loyalty for blindness, your softness for weakness, your care for need. He never realized that your presence wasn't owed. It was a gift. And when you took that gift away, the silence started to scream in his ears louder than any words ever could. You see, when you stop noticing someone who feeds on your reaction, you strip them of oxygen. His ego is suffocating right now, but he'll never show it. You think he's calm? You think he's over you? He's not. He's calculating. He's confused. He's checking if you'll flinch. But the silence is starting to disturb him, because silence is a mirror. And in it, he has to finally face himself. No audience, no applause, just the truth. And for a man who's lived on validation, that truth burns. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine a performer on stage. For weeks, he's used to you clapping, cheering, throwing roses. He doesn't even have to perform well. You still stand, still scream. But now, the lights are on. He steps out. And there's no one in the audience, no music, no spotlight, just emptiness, the silence of a crowd that walked away. That's what you did. That's what he's sitting in now. Your absence is his new audience, and it's not clapping. Now I know what some of you are thinking. But what if he never notices? What if he never comes back? What if I lose him forever? And to that I say, good. Because if a man can't feel the weight of your absence, he was never meant to hold your presence. And I don't say that to be cute. I say it because too many of you have been addicted to being seen, even if it's by someone who only watches you bleed. You've confused being noticed with being valued. You've confused reaction with connection. And now it's time to break that addiction. The withdrawal of your attention is not a game. It's a statement. A declaration that from now on your energy is sacred, that your peace is no longer up for negotiation, that he can live in his pride and play the I don't care role all he wants. But deep down, that silence is eating away at him like rust on metal. And guess what? Let it. Let it make noise in his head. Let it haunt his late nights. Let it be the echo that reminds him of everything he took for granted. But yes, it'll be hard. Your hands will itch to reach out. Your mind will make up stories. Maybe he's busy. Maybe he's hurting. Maybe he's testing me. Stop. Stop making excuses for a man who benefits from your suffering, because the truth is, if he really cared, there would be no confusion, no games, no withdrawal. You don't have to chase a man who's truly present. You only chase ghosts. So let this be your new reality. You're done performing, done begging, done shrinking your value to fit inside someone's fleeting attention span. You're not noise. You're not a post. You're not a maybe one day. You are a force, and your silence, That's the thunderstorm he never saw coming. So write this in the comments and show him, show yourself, and show the damn universe. My silence speaks. My energy is power. Say it, own it, feel it. Because the moment you withdraw your attention, you stop being an option and become a mystery. And trust me, folks, mystery is 10 times more magnetic than desperation ever was. Section 3. You become his unknown, and the unknown is terrifying. The scariest thing you can ever become to a man is unpredictable. Listen closely, my friends, because when a man can't read you anymore, when he no longer knows what you're thinking, where you are, how you feel, he loses the one thing that made him feel powerful in the first place: control. See, men don't fear losing you as much as they fear not knowing if they lost you. That space between certainty and doubt, that's where their ego starts to unravel. And the moment you stop being predictable, you become his unknown. And the unknown is terrifying. He used to know exactly how you'd react. You'd send the message. You'd cry behind closed doors. You'd be online at the same time, watching his stories. You'd try to show him what he's missing, hoping, just hoping, that he'd notice and crawl back. He had you figured out like a book he thought he wrote, and that made him feel safe, superior, in control. But now, that book has blank pages. You flipped the script, you changed the channel, you've gone off the map. No texts, no hints, no posts aimed at him, no more desperate energy leaking from your soul. And he doesn't know what to do with that, because when a woman no longer dances to the rhythm of his ego, the music in his head goes silent. And silence, for a man who thrives on emotional power, is torment. This is where Stoicism becomes your sword. The Stoics believed that detachment is strength, not because you stop caring, but because you stop clinging. You don't need to beg someone to see your worth. You just step back and let them face the storm they created. You become the unknown, the unpredictable, the unbothered, and that confuses the hell out of someone who built his identity on your reactions. Let me give you a visual. Imagine he's a sailor out at sea. He used to have a compass, you. Every time he felt unsure, he'd look to you to guide his ego back to safety. Your attention was the North Star. Even when he drifted, he knew you'd be there. But now, you've disappeared into the horizon, and that sea, it's vast, it's silent, and it's cold. That's where he is now, lost. Not because you're gone, but because for the first time he doesn't know if you're coming back. And that's what shakes him. Not rejection, not your absence, the uncertainty that maybe you've moved on. Maybe someone else is getting the energy he took for granted. Maybe you're not crying. Maybe you're out there glowing, healed and unavailable. He doesn't know. And in that not knowing, his ego begins to rot from the inside out. But here's the part that gets real. You used to be terrified of this same uncertainty. You hated it. You overanalyzed his silence. You begged the universe for signs. You clung to his last message like it was your only proof that you mattered. You made excuses. You asked, was it me? You put your entire identity in the hands of someone who couldn't even hold a real conversation. And I'm here to scold you with love, because how dare you forget who you are like that? How dare you let some inconsistent man be the mirror you measured yourself in? You let his confusion become your crisis. His silence became your shame. And all along, it was never about you being unworthy. It was about you forgetting you were the storm. But not anymore. Now you've stepped into the most dangerous, beautiful, powerful energy a woman can have: mystery. You've become the question that keeps him up at night, the variable he can't solve, the what-if that haunts his every scroll, his every memory, his every silent moment. You're no longer the sure thing. You're the wild card, the one that got away, not because he lost you, but because you chose to disappear. And let me say this loud and clear. Unpredictability is not manipulation. It's liberation. You're not playing games. You're breaking patterns. You're not trying to make him miss you. You're remembering your worth. The fact that he can't figure you out anymore, that's his consequence, not your responsibility. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to write this in the comments right now. I am not his pattern. I am his unknown. Let it echo. Let it burn. Let it rise inside of you like fire in your lungs. Show him, show yourself, show the world what it looks like when a woman stops being predictable and starts being powerful. Section 4. The ego starves when it's not fed. A man's ego is only as strong as the woman who keeps feeding it. Let's call it like it is, my friends. He didn't fall in love with you. He fell in love with the version of himself that he saw reflected in your eyes. Every compliment, every "I miss you," every time you tried to explain yourself, prove yourself, overextend yourself. That attention wasn't just casual background noise to him. No, it was fuel, and he was addicted. He thrived off your energy like a leech disguised as a lover. He needed to feel important, worshipped, wanted. And you made him feel like a king even when he was behaving like trash. You gave him applause for doing the bare minimum. You celebrated breadcrumbs like they were a feast. And he got high on that. High on your approval, high on your reactions, high on being able to emotionally starve you and still be praised. But now he gets nothing. No likes, no views, no messages, no "I miss you" texts at midnight, no long explanations trying to fix what he refuses to take responsibility for. Nothing, not a crumb. And let me tell you, the ego can't survive without food. It shrinks, it trembles, it starves. And the more it starves, the more desperate it becomes. That's the Stoic truth. You see, men like him walk around with a mirror strapped to their chest, and every time you look at them with love, with longing, with hope, they see a reflection of a man they wish they were, not the man they actually are, not the emotionally unavailable boy who pulls away when it gets real, not the man who avoids honest conversations and hides behind "I'm just not ready." No. Your attention allowed him to believe he was bigger than he was. But when you removed it, when you stopped feeding his ego with your reactions, you shattered that mirror, and now he's standing in front of broken glass, trying to piece himself back together without the glue that was your devotion. And let's be honest, you were the glue. You were the one holding it together, holding space, holding hope, holding your breath. You bent until your back broke, trying to keep the illusion of connection alive. And he just leaned back and soaked it in. He thought you'd never stop pouring, but now the cup is empty, and so is his sense of worth. Now some of you might feel guilty. You might be thinking, am I being too cold? Am I hurting him? But ask yourself this, where was that concern when he left you on red? Where was that emotional sensitivity when you sat in silence for hours, days, wondering what you did wrong? Where was his worry when you cried yourself to sleep over a man who couldn't even call? You're not being cold, you're being clear. Clear about what you will and will not feed anymore. Clear about what you deserve. And clear about the fact that his ego is not your emotional responsibility. If he needs a fan club, let him start one. You're not the front row anymore. The Stoics said it best. He who controls himself is more powerful than he who conquers a city. And right now, you are the one in control. Because you have the one thing he's terrified of. Your energy back in your own hands. And yes, he'll try to provoke you. Subtle posts, random likes. A message at 2 a.m. that says, "Hey, you good?" That's not concern, that's bait. That's his ego knocking on your door asking, "Can I come back and feed again?" And your answer, silence, stillness, strength, because when you stop feeding the ego, it reveals the man. And if the man beneath the ego has nothing to offer, then you were never losing anything, you were just carrying dead weight. Now I want you to say this in the comments right now. I feed no man's ego, I fuel my own worth. Say it like you mean it. Say it for the woman you were. Say it for the woman you're becoming, and say it loud enough that he hears it in the silence that now surrounds him. Section 5. You shift from option to enigma. A woman who once poured her heart out and now says nothing at all, that silence becomes a man's worst obsession. Let's break the illusion wide open, my friends. You used to be an option, easy to reach, easy to predict, always emotionally available. He knew your rhythm, knew your patterns, knew your heart would always have a space with his name carved into it. You gave him visibility, you gave him clarity, you gave him the blueprint to your soul, and he treated it like junk mail. And now you've vanished from the script. You don't cry on cue anymore. You don't wait online, you don't over-explain, you don't check in, you don't care the same way anymore. And that shift, that subtle, quiet, unannounced shift, it's destroying him, because you're no longer an open book. You're a locked vault, a storm he can't track, an enigma. And let me tell you, Stoic philosophy teaches one chilling truth. The human mind fears what it cannot understand. You've become discomfort, wrapped in elegance. You used to be a warm, emotional welcome mat. Now you're a steel door, and he doesn't have the key anymore. And this, my friends, is the beginning of his unraveling. He sits there, scrolling through old conversations, reading between the lines, replaying old memories like surveillance footage. Was she pretending to care less? Did I go too far? Did someone else get to her? The truth. You're not playing games. You're just done playing the fool. And don't think for a second he's not noticing. He notices everything now. Every second of your silence, every lack of reply, every time you post something that doesn't include him. He used to be the center of your emotional world, and now he's not even on the map. And you know what that does to a man who needs attention to survive? It cracks his reality. Because he thought you'd always be easy, he never thought he'd have to figure you out. And here's the truth. Men don't fall for what's familiar. They obsess over what they can't predict. You've become that obsession. Not because you're trying to manipulate him, but because you've risen out of the role he trapped you in. Let me give you a visual. He's like a gambler at a slot machine that used to pay out every time. Now it's quiet, cold, no flashing lights, but instead of walking away, he stays. He's pressing buttons, pulling levers, trying to get back what he used to receive effortlessly. Because the loss isn't just emotional now, it's psychological. And here's where I scold you a bit. You should have done this a long time ago. You should have walked away the first time you were treated like a backup plan. You should have stopped being predictable when your love was taken for granted. But you forgot who you were. You let love turn you into an emotional doormat. You confused loyalty with self-abandonment. You made yourself small for a man who never had the vision to see how big your heart was. But now you're an enigma, a mystery, a force. And he's terrified, because he no longer knows what you'll do next. And what the ego can't predict, it can't control. That's when he starts spiraling. That's when he watches your story 6 times in a row. That's when he sends that random "hey" like nothing ever happened. Because men chase closure when they realize they're not the one deciding when the door shuts. And you've already walked through a new one. I want you to write this in the comments right now. I'm not an option. I am the mystery he can't solve. Say it for your past self. Say it for every time you begged for clarity, begged to be chosen, begged to be enough. Now you are the one who cannot be explained, predicted, or replaced. Section 6. Emotional independence is the loudest power play. A woman who can walk away with peace in her heart is the one no man ever forgets. Let me tell you something they don't want you to know, my friends. Emotional independence is the loudest, most deafening kind of power. It's not screaming, it's not blocking and unblocking, it's not posting quotes about healing while secretly hoping he watches. No, true power, it's when you stop caring if he's watching at all, because you're fine either way. And that's what he never expected. He thought you needed him, thought your happiness was tied to his attention, thought he was your son and you were just orbiting around him, waiting, hoping, breathing in the warmth of crumbs. But now, the warmth is gone, and you didn't freeze. You blossomed, quietly, confidently, without him. That's what shakes him. Because when a woman no longer needs validation, no longer needs closure, no longer needs a man's presence to feel whole, he loses his script. His identity starts crumbling, and that ego, that inflated little balloon of "I'm irreplaceable" he walked around with, it pops loudly, because now he sees it, clear as day. You didn't need saving, he did. You were just too soft to let him drown alone. Let me paint the picture. Before, you were like a fire alarm going off in his head. Emotional, obvious, loud. Now, you're the quiet after the storm. He comes back to check the wreckage and finds calm. No chaos, no crying, no attention-seeking, just stillness. And nothing haunts a man more than realizing the woman he took for granted is no longer in pain, because she healed without him. He doesn't just miss you now. He questions himself. Was I ever enough? Why didn't she fall apart? Has she moved on? Did she ever even need me? And the answer, my friend, is no. You didn't need him. You chose him. You gave, not because you were desperate, but because you had the capacity. You loved, not because you were broken, but because you were whole. He just never knew how to handle a woman who didn't depend on him to breathe. That's the Stoic truth. The strongest person in the room is the one who doesn't flinch when someone leaves, the one who doesn't chase, the one who keeps walking with grace, head high, heart intact. Not because it didn't hurt, but because she chose to rise anyway. But let's be honest, you didn't always feel this strong. You begged, you hoped, you thought about what you could do better. You thought maybe if you loved him harder, he'd change. You twisted yourself into knots to be good enough for someone who wouldn't lift a finger for your peace. And let me say this as your wake-up call. He was never the prize. You were. You forgot your power. You outsourced your joy. You made him the center of a universe he didn't even know how to orbit in. But now you're emotionally sovereign. You've taken back every piece you gave away, and in that space, something beautiful has bloomed. Freedom. So I want you to write this in the comments right now. I am free. I don't chase. I choose. Say it. For the version of you that stayed, for the version that cried, for the version that kept breaking herself to keep him whole. Let the world see her transformation, because emotional independence isn't cold, it's clarity, it's not revenge, it's rebirth. And if he ever circles back, let him see the difference. Let him meet the woman who doesn't beg anymore, the woman who decides, not because she's bitter, but because she finally knows her worth. Section 7. His imagination becomes his punishment. A woman's silence doesn't echo, it haunts. Let me tell you something raw and real, my friends. When a woman finally goes quiet, that silence doesn't bring peace, not to a man who once fed on her love. No, it brings madness. Because when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop chasing, when you stop being his emotional crutch, his imagination starts doing all the talking. And trust me, His imagination is not kind to him. He's sitting there, scrolling through his feed, staring at your name, and now he doesn't know. He used to know everything. He used to feel secure, important, superior. But now that security is gone, and in its place is a storm of questions. Who's she with? Has someone else made her laugh? Is she happier now? Was she faking her love at the end? Did I really lose her forever? The silence becomes a ghost, and every ghost looks like regret. See, when you were giving, talking, chasing, he didn't have to think, he didn't have to wonder. He knew where he stood, he knew you'd answer, he knew you cared. But now, that door he left half open, slammed shut without warning, and the moment it closed, he started suffocating in his own mind. That's the Stoic trap, my friend, the trap he built with his own hands. He thought power meant pulling away. He thought silence made him a mystery. He thought his distance would keep you desperate. But now, you're not desperate. You're disappeared. And that silence, it's turned his own ego into a cage, a prison of thoughts. He checks your page and wonders, was that post for me? He sees you smiling and wonders, is she finally over me? He hears a song, and it sounds like you, like something he should have held on to tighter. Because that's what imagination does, folks. It fills in the blanks with pain. And the mind, left alone, is the cruelest storyteller of all. You don't need to hurt him. You don't need to say a word. You don't need to throw shade or write poems about the pain. You simply let the silence say everything. And right now, it's screaming. And the best part, you didn't have to lift a finger. He's doing it to himself, because he knows deep down he had your heart. He had something solid, something rare, but his pride made him play it small. His ego made him test your limits. And now that you're gone, he's realizing something terrifying. He never expected to lose you. Not really, not fully, but now that you've gone quiet, now that you've stayed quiet, he's realizing the truth. This isn't a game. This isn't a phase. This is his consequence. And let me speak to you for a second, the woman listening to this with a heart still bruised. You are not the villain for going quiet. You are not cold for protecting your peace. You are not cruel for choosing you. You are finally doing what he never thought you'd do, leaving him alone with the version of himself that you used to carry. Let him sit with it. Let him spiral. Let him wonder, because that's what happens when a man loses the one who saw him, held him, supported him, even when he didn't deserve it. He now lives in the prison of what-ifs and what was. And you've moved forward without the weight of his confusion on your back. So say this loud in the comments. I gave silence. He gave stories. Let him hear it in the dark. Let it echo through his mind like a song he can't get out of his head. Let the world see the power of a woman who no longer needs to explain herself to be understood. Section 8. You rise, not to win him back, but to never need him again. She didn't change to get him back. She changed so he could never reach her again. This is the part he never saw coming. He thought the silence was temporary. He thought your glow-up was a phase. He thought eventually you'd come back around, softer, more forgiving, ready to accept whatever scraps he decided to throw your way. But here's the twist. You didn't rise to win him back. You rose so high that even if he tried to return, he'd have to crawl through every layer of growth he once mocked just to get your attention. This isn't about proving a point. This isn't about playing cold or pretending you don't care. This is about you realizing, on a soul level, that you never needed him to begin with. That the ache you thought was love was actually just you grieving the potential of someone who never had the capacity to love you right. And the woman you are today, she doesn't chase potential. She commands reality, because now you're emotionally untouchable, not in a guarded, bitter way, but in the most powerful, stoic way possible. You're no longer reactive, no longer waiting, no longer measuring your worth by someone else's confusion. You've stepped into your own presence. You've become unshakable, and when he does come back, and yes, he will, don't be surprised. He'll test the waters. A "Hey stranger" text, a fire emoji on your story, a "just thinking of you" message at 11:43 p.m. Why? Because your silence forced him to sit in the echo chamber of his own emptiness. Your absence rewired his memory, and now he's starting to see you weren't just a woman in his life. You were the best damn thing that ever walked through it. But now, you're not the same woman. You're not hoping. You're not proving. You're not tolerating low effort, low presence, low value men who want the benefits of your soul without the responsibility of showing up. Because now, my friend, your presence is earned. You don't offer your softness to just anyone. You don't hand out access like it's candy. You don't let people come and go like you're a revolving door. No, now you are the prize. Now you are the standard. Now you are the woman who walks into a room and changes the temperature without saying a single word. That's stoic revenge. Not loud, not vengeful, but untouchable. He could beg, he could cry, he could write you poems and swear he's changed. And maybe he has. But the version of you he left behind no longer exists. And that means he has to evolve too. Because you don't lower yourself to meet someone anymore. They rise or they remain below. And let me say this. This isn't just about him. It's about every version of you that you betrayed just to be loved. It's about every moment you silenced your intuition, dimmed your shine, overextended your heart for someone who never once said, "Thank you." It's about reclaiming every lost piece of yourself and building a woman so whole, so radiant, so rooted, that not even your past self would recognize you. And here's the truth, my friends. If you've made it this far, you already know. This was never about getting him back. It was about getting you back. The woman who stopped chasing. The woman who now chooses herself. You are no longer waiting to be seen. You see yourself now. So if this message stirred something deep in you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with another woman who needs to remember her worth. Drop your affirmation in the comments. Let's build a movement of women who rise in silence and never beg again. Your power starts now.